They did everything right. Worked hard, saved money, went to school, got the job, paid the bills. But now, it's 2025, and they're still broke. How did it come to this? Why do so many Americans feel poorer than ever, even as the headlines scream record job growth and strong economy? Something isn't adding up. And in this video, we're going to expose why. You're not imagining it. Gas is expensive. Groceries are a gut punch. Rent feels like ransom. The American dream, once a symbol of prosperity and progress, has quietly slipped into something darker, more distant, more like a cruel joke for many families. We were promised that if we studied hard, got the degree, landed the job, and stayed loyal, the rewards would follow. But now, wages aren't keeping up. Debt is rising, savings are vanishing, and inflation has become the silent thief nobody invited but everyone feels. In this video, we're diving deep into the truth behind the poverty creeping across middle-class America. You'll learn why your dollar doesn't stretch like it used to, how inflation is quietly destroying generational wealth, and what the mainstream news won't tell you about the debt trap that's tightening every single day. Let's take a walk through modern America. Not the glamorous skyline of Manhattan, not the high-tech campuses of Silicon Valley. Let's talk about Main Street, USA. The place where a gallon of milk used to cost $2.50, and now it's pushing $5. Where rent has become the dragon people chase with every paycheck, and even a modest lifestyle requires a six-figure income in many cities. People aren't imagining the struggle, they're living it. The truth is, Americans feel poorer because they are poorer, relative to what they were promised. Not just in dollars, but in security, in stability, in the ability to breathe without money dictating every inhale and exhale. In the 1950s, a single-income household could buy a house, raise kids, go on vacation, and still save money. That wasn't fantasy. It was the norm. Fast forward to 2025, and even dual-income families are drowning. Parents are skipping meals so their kids can eat. Renters are juggling two jobs to cover bills. College grads are moving back in with their parents, not because they want to, but because they have to. And it's not just the price of things. It's the erosion of what those prices represent. Inflation isn't just a financial term. It's a slow theft of dignity. A carton of eggs doubling in price is more than numbers. It's a parent standing in the grocery aisle, calculating what to put back. It's someone at the gas pump, watching the meter spin like a slot machine, praying their card doesn't decline. But let's be clear, inflation didn't just happen. It was manufactured, by policy, by greed, by a system that runs on short-term gains and long-term blindness. When the pandemic hit, governments printed trillions to keep economies afloat. That lifeline came with consequences. More money chasing fewer goods sparked a historic wave of inflation. Supply chains broke. Corporate profits surged, and while CEOs flew private jets to their retreats in Davos, everyday Americans watched their purchasing power crumble. Wages? They didn't keep up. Yes, there have been raises, but in real terms, adjusted for inflation, most Americans are earning less than they were 2 decades ago. The price of progress has been paid for by the working class. Their reward? Stagnant salaries and rising costs. Now let's talk about debt, the silent killer of the American dream. Credit card debt has hit an all-time high, soaring past $1.2 trillion. Student loans sit above $1.7 trillion. Auto loans have exploded. Americans are not living within their means, not because they're reckless, but because the means have shrunk and the cost of survival has ballooned. A $400 emergency? Nearly half of American adults can't cover it without borrowing. That's not laziness. That's a system rigged against the average person. And then there's housing. The cost to buy a home has become a joke. If you're not laughing, you're crying. Home prices have doubled in a decade, while incomes have barely moved. Millennials and Gen Z were told to just save and buy a home. But how do you save when rent eats half your paycheck and groceries devour the rest? We now live in a country where people with college degrees and full-time jobs can't afford a starter home, where a one-bedroom apartment in cities like Austin or Denver costs more than a mortgage in 2005, where first-time homebuyers are bidding against investors and hedge funds, losing every time. And don't even get started on healthcare. A single hospital visit can destroy a family's finances. One broken arm, one ambulance ride, one misdiagnosis, and suddenly, your credit is ruined and your savings evaporated. Americans pay more for healthcare than any other developed nation, yet life expectancy has declined. Think about that. We're spending more and living shorter. This isn't just economic. This is emotional. It's spiritual. It's the feeling of being trapped on a treadmill, running faster but going nowhere, of working 60 hours a week and still not affording security, of watching billionaires fly to space while your neighbor gets evicted. That's why Americans feel poor, because wealth in America has become a spectacle for the few, not a promise for the many. Now let's dig deeper into the broken promises. The American dream told us that hard work pays off, that education is the ladder to success, that playing by the rules leads to rewards. But look around, hard work is everywhere, reward isn't. People are working night shifts, weekend gigs, rideshare apps, and freelance jobs just to stay afloat. The hustle culture isn't ambition, it's desperation dressed up in Instagram quotes. Education? We've already discussed it. It comes with a six-figure price tag and no guarantee of a livable wage. Play by the rules have changed, and the game is rigged. Let's put it plainly. America's middle class is being hollowed out. The wealth gap is at historic highs. The top 1% owns more wealth than the bottom 90% combined. This isn't just an inequality of income, it's an inequality of access. Access to decent housing, access to quality education, access to time, peace, and the ability to dream. And the system reinforces itself. Tax laws reward wealth, not work. Housing markets reward landlords, not renters. The stock market is booming, but half the country doesn't own stocks. Social safety nets? Underfunded. Wages? Underpaid. Hope? Undervalued. So when people say, why do Americans feel poor? The better question is, why shouldn't they? This is a generation burdened by crises they didn't create. The Great Recession, the pandemic, climate disasters, political dysfunction, tech monopolies, and rising global instability. And every time they try to rebuild, another wave knocks them down. They're not failing the system is failing them. It's time we stop gaslighting Americans into thinking they're bad with money. The truth is, they're being squeezed by forces far beyond their control. Think about it. When CEOs blame worker shortages, but buy back billions in stock instead of raising wages, the message is clear. When politicians argue over crumbs while the cost of living explodes, the message is clear. When schools cut counselors but hire consultants, the message is clear. The people have been abandoned. And yet, despite it all, they keep going. They hustle, they adapt, they survive. But surviving isn't living. And Americans aren't asking for luxury, they're asking for dignity. They're asking for the ability to raise a family, build a future, and have something left at the end of the month. That shouldn't be too much to ask. But as long as inflation, debt, and systemic greed continue unchecked, Americans will continue to feel poor. Because the wealth they generate is siphoned upward, while the costs of survival are dumped on their backs. That's the real story. And unless we confront it with honesty, compassion, and bold reform, we will continue to see rising despair in the richest country on earth. Not because people are weak, but because the promises were broken. But you're not powerless. Here are some ways to survive, maybe even thrive, while the storm rages. Track your spending with precision. Budgeting apps like YNAB or Mint are essential. You need full clarity on where every dollar goes. Prioritize emergency savings. Aim for $1,000 to $2,000 as a starter buffer, even if it takes months. That small cushion can prevent credit card spirals. Learn high-income skills online. Platforms like Coursera, Skillshare, and YouTube offer free training in digital marketing, coding, design, and finance. No student loans needed. Move smart. Consider relocating to cities with lower costs of living but solid job markets. Think Chattanooga, Tulsa, or even parts of Ohio and Michigan. Invest in assets, not liabilities. Even small amounts into index funds or crypto can build over time. What matters is starting. Avoid lifestyle creep. Don't let a raise inflate your expenses. Keep your costs the same and let the difference build freedom. Just last month, a report from the Federal Reserve confirmed that the average American household's net worth has declined in real terms since 2021, meaning you might be earning more dollars, but those dollars are worth less. Meanwhile, new legislation is stalled in Congress around wage growth, affordable housing, and federal student loan forgiveness. The divide between rich and poor continues to widen. And while the job market shows signs of strength, it's mostly in low-wage, no-benefit positions. Gig work, retail, food service. Not the kind of careers that build futures. A study out of Georgetown University in April 2025 found that 70% of new college graduates feel financially worse off than their parents did at the same age. That's not progress, that's regression. So, why do Americans feel so poor? Because the numbers lie, but the lived experience doesn't. Because inflation steals quietly, debt screams loudly, and broken promises echo for a lifetime. But here's the truth. Knowing the game is rigged is the first step to reclaiming your power. Because now you can play differently. Smarter. With eyes open and a plan in place. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. I really appreciate you watching. If you found this useful, a like would be fantastic, and subscribing helps me keep creating content you'll hopefully enjoy. Please share your experiences and any questions in the comments. I always try to read and respond. Your support keeps this channel going. Until our next video, take care.